Hi again and welcome to the Laughter Crafter channel. I'm glad you're with me. So today I've made something a little bit different. It involves using fabric, but don't panic. There's no sewing machine involved, just a little bit of hand sewing that, I'm sure that you can do. So you ready to have a look? Here we go. It's a little heart-shaped wall hanging. 3 little hearts attached to some ribbon with glue and some really simple stitching. So I'm sure that you can do this, okay? So there we go. So as usual, I have our limerick. Are you ready for it? Here we go. 3 hearts to display on the wall aren't that tricky to fashion at all. Add some ribbons and lace, sew some buttons in place. I think I'll hang this in the hall. There you go. Okay, I've got another joke for you. Emma's over here. She's listening. She hasn't heard this one. Okay, so I volunteer at the zoo here in Perth, and so I thought this was a good zoo joke. So one day in the zoo, I was walking along, and in an enclosure all by itself, I saw a bag of hamburger buns. Do you know why I saw hamburger buns, Emma?
I don't know why.
Well, when I asked the keeper why they had a bag of hamburger buns in an enclosure, he said, well, this is bred in captivity. Pretty bad, but I liked it. Tickled my fancy. Okay, let's get on with making our 3 hearts wall hanging. So here are all the bits and pieces I'm intending to use for the wall hanging made up with love hearts. I've got pieces of fabric here. Some of them are quite small, scrappy little pieces. Some of them are a bit larger. I just grabbed an assortment of colours from my stash. I wouldn't recommend running out to buy fabric to do this unless you can find just scraps. But you may have a friend. If you don't have fabric, you may have someone that you know who does quilting or something like that, and you can grab some scraps of fabric. Now I've also got buttons here to decorate these little love hearts with. I found a little bow as well. I may use that. I found some ribbon that I'd like to use to attach all the hearts to and make a loop at the top to hang from. I've also got a bag full of other ribbons and laces and bric-a-brac and all sorts in there. I may use some of those to decorate with as well. Also, for running around the outside of the love hearts, I've got some DMC threads, embroidery threads, and you buy them in little, they're rolled up in little packets. You can buy them at any place that sells fabric and that sort of thing. I have wound my DMC threads around these little cards and color coded them. This is just one of the boxes that I have, so I'll choose to use some of those. You need a template, a love heart template. So the best way to make a symmetrical love heart is to fold a piece of cardboard or paper in half, cut half a heart, then when you open up it's symmetrical. I've also got some more of the same stuff, which is interfacing, iron-on interfacing. You see that shiny side? That shiny side is dried glue. So when you apply heat from a hot iron onto this side, the glue on this side, the shiny side, will melt onto the back of those love hearts and hold everything nice and firm and stiff together and keep all those edges of the fabric. As I make it, you'll see what I mean, what to do with that. I've got lovely fabric scissors there as well. I also grabbed out my little glue gun, so I may be putting these love hearts onto that ribbon using a glue gun, I think. Buttons, of course, I think I mentioned those. So that's pretty much everything. The only thing I don't have here on this display that of course you'll need is an iron and an ironing board for ironing this iron-on interfacing onto the back of the hearts. So I think I'm ready to go now, so let's make a move. So what I've done here is used my lovely fabric scissors to cut strips of fabric, all of them 4 centimeters wide, which is about 1.5 inches in the old language. And some of them are quite short, you'll see, and some are much longer. Reason being, I'm going to lay them down on the shiny side up of this iron-on interfacing, starting with the short ones. Now what I'm going to do is fold that in half and give that a little press. I've got my iron set up here, so you can't see me pressing this, but I am just giving that a press in half. And now that folded edge is just going to cover that point of the heart. That's the folded edge. Then I'm going to take my next one which is slightly longer, fold it in half again and give that a little press. If you're using polycottons and not 100% cotton, make sure that you turn the heat of the iron down a little bit. Okay, now you can see that I've left that orange sticking out around about 1/2 centimetre or 1/4 of an inch, and so that green one is back from that orange, and I'm going to continue pressing these in half and lapping them over using wider and wider fabric as I go so that I cover that complete heart. Okay, so I'm going to continue doing that. Okay, I have folded all my little strips in half and then staggered them across this piece of iron-on interfacing with the glue side next to the fabric, so that when I apply the heat in a moment, hopefully that glue will melt and adhere to the back of those strips. Another thing to mention is when you do your little strips, make sure you fold them wrong side to wrong side. If you're not familiar with terms that we use in sewing, that's the right side of the fabric, that's the wrong side of the fabric. So you want to fold all your strips wrong side to wrong side so that the right side is showing. Okay, so that's what I've done here. Now I'm going to apply the iron, going straight on, not moving the iron backwards and forwards and wriggling everything around, just pressing down like this, getting quite a bit of heat in. And once that glue on the iron-on interfacing starts to melt, I'll be able to pick this up carefully and turn it over and then iron it from the other side. You want to be careful not to accidentally put the iron-on interfacing the wrong way around. You want the shiny glue side that melts, you want that against these strips of fabric. So that should be adhered enough for me to pick up and turn this over. So yep, so that's good. Now I can turn that over, and there's, you can see my love heart there. Not exactly completely ironed on yet, but I can apply heat from this side as well. And the heat from the iron is really going to melt this glue now because it's much closer to the glue. It's not trying to get through all of that fabric. And of course, if I had the glue sticking up, in other words, if I had this iron-on interfacing upside down, that glue would melt straight onto my iron, and you don't want that. That's a real pain to get off. Okay, so you see that I've made all of the strips wider than the width of the heart so that I can now come round with my scissors and cut, made a big steamy mark on there, and cut around, exactly around that heart with the scissors. And so that's what I'm going to do now. So I'll join you in a minute. So I have one of the little love hearts that I made ready here to start sewing. And as I said before, you don't need to be an expert sewer to do what I'm going to do, especially with these fantastic easy threading hand needles. So if you find that threading a needle is hard for you because of your eyesight perhaps or unsteady hands, this is a really fantastic method. Now first of all, I'm going to take this DMC thread that I talked about before. DMC threads come in 6 strands, and you might be able to count there's 3. I've separated it, 3 there and 3 there. So because I don't need the thickness of 6 strands, I'm going to separate it into 3. I hold it like that, and then I just drag my finger along the length that I've cut, which I think will be enough to sew a running stitch right around this love heart. So I'm just sort of having a wrestle with that DMC thread. Rightio, there we are. I've separated it. So I'll demonstrate this easy thread needle for you. It's a fantastic invention. So you don't have to try and poke the ends of these threads through the eye. What you do is you take the thread in one hand and you just push the needle onto those threads, and there it is in there. You just push them on, and then you can slide that needle down to the position that you want. Oopsie, there we go, like that. And I'm going to put a little knot down the other end like this, but that knot is going to be hidden, and I'll show you a little trick for doing that. So make a double knot. Takes a little bit of practice to get all your knots right on top of each other. Just cut a very tiny tail on the end of that knot. So now I'm going to begin. As I said, I'm going to hide that tail, so I'm going to do that by lifting up that little flap and bringing my needle up through there. Then I'll be able to hide that little tail under there. Voila, it's gone. So now, as I said, I'm just going to do a very simple running stitch, which is just down through there and then up again. So I'll do a few stitches to demonstrate. I've decided to come in around about 5 millimeters, around about 1/4 of an inch in from that edge, and the stitch lengths are going to be the same. Now this iron-on interfacing is quite thick, and you've got layers of fabric here as well, so it's going to take a little bit of effort to push the needle through. And remember, here at the Laughter Crafter, we don't aim for perfection, we just aim for a pleasing result. I like to say that practice does not make perfect, but practice makes progress, and I think that's a pretty good thing to aim for, getting better at something, not necessarily getting perfect at it. So you can see that I've got a few stitches started there like that, and so I'm going to run right around the edge of this, and I'm also going to use the same simple running stitch when I'm attaching ribbons and what other decorative items that I want, like lace and that sort of thing, on top of these love hearts. So there you go. So I've stitched this on with a little stem stitch, as you can see. So I've come to the end. So just to finish that row off, I'm going to take a small stitch that comes out very close to where the thread went down in, make a little loop. Before I pull the loop tight, I'm going to take that needle through that loop and pull it through and make a knot. Do another little one just not far away, in and out, leave a loop, take the thread into the loop and knot it off. Now instead of just cutting that off, I'm going to take this needle and thread it behind this iron-on interfacing, but underneath that ribbon, and you can't see it at all. Take it through there, pull that through, slide that thread out, and then I can just cut that off close to that, and that end is hidden. So then I'm going to trim off, as I said I would, trim off these little bits of excess ribbon around there like that, and across there like that. Now I'm ready to sew on the buttons. So I'm choosing to put on some nice colourful ones. I think I'll put 3 buttons on here like this, maybe the red, yellow and blue, and so I'll go ahead and do that now. So I've sewn on 2 buttons. Now I'm going to sew on this red one. I've got some orange DMC thread, just 3 strands. I tied a knot down the end there. So I'm going to place that button there. So before I start, I'm not going to start from the underside because that will leave a knot and a tail hanging out. I'm going to just tuck the thread underneath that little flap of fabric and tuck the tail in there. Tuck it under there. Now pick up my button, thread it onto the needle. Now I'm ready to start, so I want to place it there. And again, if you've never sewn a button on before, this is how you go up and down through the hole. You probably want to do it 5 or 6 times to make it secure, which only takes a minute or so. Oopsie daisy. Thread just came out, so using the easy thread needle, I'm just going to pop that thread straight back in to the eye, down again, one more stitch, make it quite secure, finish on the back, quite secure, turn it over, and we'll do what we did before. we're going to take the needle through those little orange stitches at the back, through like that. Don't pull it all the way through, leave a little loop, and take the needle through that loop to form a knot, and do another one through there, leave a little loop through the loop to make a knot. Again, we don't just cut the tail off, we're going to take that needle through just that iron-on interfacing layer. Check that it's not coming through, the needle's not showing on this side, so I'm not going to have any thread showing through. Just enough to sort of bury that thread underneath that interfacing. I can take the needle out now and cut that extra length of thread off, so we don't have any scraggly bits hanging down the bottom. As I said, not that anybody sees the bottom, but it's just a nice way to sew, I think. So there we have it. We have the little love hearts, the stem stitch around the outside, this ribbon across with the bric-a-brac on top, and I used the mauve DMC thread on top of the mauve ribbon, so it's more invisible. But if you're quite confident and happy with your stitching, you can use a contrasting color if you want to. And you'll see that I used orange thread on these red, yellow and blue buttons, and I think it looks quite nice. It's nice and bright. So I'm going to make all three hearts that I've done decorated with whatever ribbons and buttons I choose, and that'll be the time then that I can put them together. So I have my length of ribbon, which is what the hearts are going to be attached to, and I've sewn an O-ring up at the top so that I can hang it on the wall. Now I've placed pins in the position where I need to place the fabric glue. I decided to go with fabric glue rather than the glue gun because this is more flexible and this is made for fabric. So as I said, I'm going to use fabric glue now to run a strip of glue on that ribbon. It dries clear, not that it's actually going to be visible, but there's one. I'll pop that pin out now, move it along, put some glue here, second position, oopsie, the second one in position. So if a little bit of glue oozes out, it will dry clear, and that's okay. And move those along and put some glue in this third position. Put that heart on there. Take these pins away. So that's them. Hopefully you can see fairly clearly that they're glued on. I'm going to not disturb them too much, let them have a chance to dry. And I have this little Hessian bow with the little red sparklies on, which I'm also going to glue just down the bottom here. So I'll put a nice dollop of glue there like that and stick that on there. So I might put something heavy on top of these things to dry. You can see a little bit of that glue is oozed out, but as I said, that's okay. That will dry clear and be fine. And if it doesn't hold exactly as I'd like, I'll put a few stitches in that later on. So I'll see how that goes. Okay, so that's it for the moment. So I hope you had fun making that. I had a lot of fun making it for you. I actually made 4 love hearts. That's the 4th one. There's the 3 other ones. And I think I'll hang on to this because it might actually make a nice coaster or something one day. Who knows? Anyway, I hope you had fun. Don't forget to do all the regular things like, subscribe, put up your comments, put up your photographs, make suggestions, and share it with your friends. Okay, let's get this crafty stuff happening and the laughter stuff happening as well. Okay, until next week, have a great time laughing and have a great time crafting. Okay, bye.